Pay us what you owe. That's a slippery slope.
Why?
Because from everything that I've read, the WNBA has never turned a profit.
And, you know, the women were out there making a statement. You know, they came out there with T-shirts that said, pay us what you owe us.
That's right. Right now, they're going through their collective bargaining right now for next year, and that includes, you know, TV, the jerseys, the merch, and all that other.
But they got a big TV.
If you thought Shannon Sharpe was done making controversial statements about women's basketball, you were dead wrong. The former ESPN host just dropped the most thought-provoking take about WNBA salaries that has the entire basketball world split down the middle. And honestly, he might have a point that nobody wants to admit. His comments about the "pay us what you owe us" campaign have sparked a massive debate that's forcing everyone to confront some uncomfortable truths about sports, economics, and whether the league is ready for the salary revolution players are demanding. During a recent episode of his Nightcap podcast, Shannon Sharpe made what many are calling a controversial statement about WNBA player salaries. But when you actually break down his argument, it starts making a lot more sense than the outrage Mob wants to admit. Shannon pointed out that asking for massive pay increases when a league has never turned a profit creates what he called a slippery slope situation. And he's absolutely right about the basic economics here.
NBA players get 9.3% of the league revenue. NBA, NHL, NFL players get 50% of the revenue. The WNBA did lose $40 million in 2024.
See, that's crazy. You haven't turned no profit, son.
Now, I know that the league's been around for 20 years. I know that it's lost money for a very, very long time here. I know they're saying like $40 million in losses potential. Now, $200 million in revenue is the total. $40 million in losses. The immediate reaction is whenever you say pay us what you owe us, it's like you're not making any money, so what do we owe you? You owe us money.
The WNBA lost $40 million.
The WNBA lost $40 million in 2024 alone, despite breaking attendance and viewership records, which raises legitimate questions about whether the current business model can support the salary demands players are making. Shannon wasn't trying to diminish the players' value or hard work. He was simply pointing out that you can't pay what you don't have. And that's a conversation the league needs to have honestly, instead of just shouting down anyone who brings up financial reality. Here's where Shannon's argument gets really interesting and why the immediate backlash against him feels so unfair. The WNBA has been operating for nearly 30 years without turning a consistent profit, which means every dollar paid to players is essentially subsidized by either the NBA or private investors who are bleeding money. Current players receive 9.3% of league revenue, which sounds low compared to the 50% that NFL and NBA players get. But those leagues actually generate enough revenue to make those percentages meaningful. When Shannon questioned whether it's sustainable to dramatically increase player salaries in a league that's already losing tens of millions annually, he was asking the kind of tough questions that business analysts should be asking.
I'm mistaken. I might have saw something that said NBA players get 9% of NBA revenue. WNBA
No,
revenue.
that's the WNBA. Get 9% of the revenue.
Let's get that up a little bit more. That's all.
I want them to keep doing this, but the guilt trip on the NBA every single year, when it's 27 years later and y'all in your best year still lost $40 million.
Good.
4-0.
God, in your best year, you lost 40.
Listen, NBA players make 50% of revenues. WNBA players make 9%. And now the merch sales are up 500% and attendance is up, 40%.
You will get a raise, and they will get a raise. That media rights deal will give them a raise. But you're not making NBA money. You're not, the highest paid salary, my gut calculation, I say gut calculation, but I've actually done the math. I think the max deal is going to be around 700.
The problem is that in today's social media environment, asking practical questions about economics gets you labeled as anti-women or anti-progress, even when you're just trying to have an honest conversation about financial sustainability. Shannon's co-host, Chad Johnson, immediately pushed back against these points. And while his passion for supporting the league is admirable, his arguments revealed exactly why this debate has become so emotionally charged instead of staying focused on facts. Chad talked about seeing packed arenas and growing fan interest, which is absolutely true and incredibly encouraging for the league's future. But attendance and excitement don't automatically translate to profitability or the ability to dramatically increase payroll. Johnson's response was pure emotion and optimism, which feels good, but doesn't address the fundamental business questions that Shannon was raising. The contrast between Shannon's analytical approach and Chad's emotional reaction perfectly captured why this conversation has become so polarized, with one side focused on financial reality and the other side focused on what feels morally right.
But in 26, they're going to go from getting $45 million annually for TV to $200 million annually.
Yay, there we go. Now we talking. Now we talking business.
But
pay us what you owe.
What are we doing? Again, they thought they'd wear those shirts and everybody be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And instead, the intelligent sports fans all collectively went, your league doesn't make a profit. What? That was the response. Your league makes no money and is subsidized by the NBA. What?
The sport got to survive on its own, or it won't be a sport. It will be a charity.
Oh my God,
This is where the conversation took a fascinating turn that actually proves Shannon was approaching this topic with an open mind rather than a closed agenda. When someone brought up the fact that the WNBA's television deal is jumping from $45 million to $200 million annually starting in 2026, Shannon immediately acknowledged that this changes everything and makes player salary increases much more realistic. Critics are calling this a flip-flop, but it's actually exactly what you want from someone having an honest discussion about economics, changing your position when new information becomes available. Shannon's willingness to adjust his stance based on the TV deal news shows he was never anti-player or anti-WNBA. He was just working with incomplete information about the league's financial future. The fact that he immediately embraced higher player salaries once the revenue picture became clearer proves his original concerns were about math, not ideology. What Shannon understood better than most of his critics is that sustainable growth requires matching expenses to revenue, and the WNBA has been struggling with this balance for decades. The league's recent explosion in popularity, driven largely by stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and others, represents an incredible opportunity. But it also creates pressure to make financial decisions based on excitement rather than careful planning.
26 goes from roughly $45 million to $200 million annually. This will result in essence the league making money overnight and losing $40 million to a net gain of $115 just alone in TV deals. Even if game tickets sold were to stop growing, the merch stopped selling, it will still be in the green.
Caitlin Clark's already rich. She made $11 million this year alone in endorsements off the court. So regardless of how these negotiations go, she's set. Nobody else is.
The media rights deals are insane. They're insane in the NBA. That's why the contracts are insane. Major League Baseball, all these regional sports networks paid these teams and paid up along with the national broadcast.
Shannon's slippery slope comment wasn't about limiting player earning potential. It was about making sure the league doesn't get ahead of itself financially and end up in an even worse position down the road. Professional sports history is littered with leagues that expanded too quickly or increased expenses faster than revenue growth, and Shannon was essentially warning against repeating those mistakes. His business-first approach might not be as emotionally satisfying as immediately maxing out player salaries, but it's the kind of thinking that actually protects the league's long-term viability. One of the most interesting aspects of Shannon's comments came when he started talking about potential WNBA franchise ownership and the rising valuations of existing teams. Critics jumped on this as hypocrisy, suggesting he was contradicting himself by viewing the league as a good investment while questioning player salary increases. But this actually shows a sophisticated understanding of business dynamics. You can absolutely believe that a league has tremendous growth potential and rising asset values, while also believing that current cash flow doesn't support dramatic payroll increases yet.